Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our July webinar. My name is Heather Martz-Keller, and I'm a marketing associate here at DTC. And for those of you who may not be fully aware of what DTC is, we are an IT company, specifically a managed services provider. And this month, we are focusing our efforts on philanthropy. And we have actually paired up with the incredible Monica Mitchell, CEO of Corporate Impact Partners. Now, before we dive in, I would like to remind everyone that we do host our webinars once a month, and that this will be recorded, so you'll be able to find it on our replay once we conclude, as well as on our website, dtctoday.com, and our YouTube channel. So again, I would like to thank Monica for joining us today and speaking with us about how to connect the bridge between philanthropy and business. So without further ado, Monica, I will turn it over to you for introductions.
Great. Thanks so much, Heather. As Heather mentioned, my name is Monica Mitchell, CEO of Corporate Impact Partners. And at Corporate Impact Partners, we provide technical assistance to small and mid-sized companies, including social impact, capacity building, initiative planning, management, nonprofit collaboration, and opportunities for positive brand exposure, all while making an impact on your community through your corporation. It is absolutely a pleasure to be here today to discuss connecting the bridge between philanthropy and business. I know that all of us are really invested in making a difference, and a roadmap to how is an important place to start.
Absolutely. So Monica, why is philanthropy and social impact important?
Well, Heather, that's a great question. You've probably noticed an increase in companies embracing social impact as a core value, and companies are absolutely taking notice. From a 2018 study, it found that 91% of Americans expect companies to go above and beyond making profits, and they really are expecting them to make a positive social impact. And, not only that, but there's overwhelming data that demonstrates that customer affinity rises for socially responsible companies. Mm-hmm. So, a majority of companies want to do more than make a profit. 84% of clients say that whenever possible, they want to try to purchase products or services that are socially or environmentally responsible. And 90% would like to see more responsible products and services offered from companies. So not only is it meaningful and important for consumers, but companies also want to do the right thing as well.
Absolutely.
So, making, why does it matter? Beyond that, what I mentioned, the most fundamental reason to raise your company's social impact performance is that all human beings in and out of corporate settings really have an obligation to behave in pro-social ways. I mentioned that, it helps align with your customers' values. Your business will do more business, but also it helps recruit. 64% of millennials won't take a job at a company that doesn't have values aligned with social responsibility. So, we see in core ways, not only aligning with your customer values, ensuring that your business does business, and also effective recruiting, which can lead to cost savings down the line and having more loyal employees. It matters tremendously that philanthropy and social impact are a part of a company and how they operate.
And Monica, just to make a note on that, I absolutely entirely agree. And I would say I'm part of that 64% of millennials. I am on the borderline of millennials and Gen Z, but I know for me, whenever I was looking at employment or even products that I want to use on a day-to-day basis, if it doesn't fit what I'm going for or my values, or I don't see how they are giving back to their communities or even giving back to their employees within the company, then it kind of turns me away from it a lot. So I think that's a really good point that you made.
Heather, it's a great point. And ironically, it's been demonstrated that customers are actually willing to pay more when they know that a company is socially responsible. A great example of that is Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Ben & Jerry's ice cream is not by no means the cheapest ice cream in the freezer section, but companies know that Ben & Jerry's has a social platform, is very clear about the things that they believe in, and folks are willing to pay more for their products because, and many cases it aligns with their own personal values.
Absolutely. So why is it important to business and company culture?
Well, creating an impactful company culture really supports everything that a business does. When we take care of our teams, when we take care of their families and our communities, we build trust and build loyalty and foster happiness. And in turn, employees give the best of their talents and offer excellent service and strategic thinking to our clients. So we build and produce better results. We engage more openly with each other, and we resolve problems more quickly. And also it makes, as we mentioned, recruiting easier. So there's really no negatives to taking care of our team because all of our success stems from their efforts. And, doing well by doing good can honestly manifest in a business's brand in many ways. As we mentioned, it helps attract, retain, and motivate employees. And I'll say the right employees, right, that are aligned with your business. That are willing to go the extra mile, that are willing to align their values with their work, which means they're going to be deeply engaged, and you're engaging them in social impact activities. It enhances the company's brand reputation as a good corporate citizen, and promotes brand loyalty. Like I mentioned, my freezer is filled with Ben and Jerry's ice cream because I'm loyal to, not only the taste, but their mission and
Absolutely.
and their social impact. It increases customer sales, which we mentioned earlier, and it honestly helps save money. Doing well by doing good means that you're doing well by doing good, not only for people, but for the planet as well. So doing things like recycling, turning the lights off, thinking about the green impact of your company is also really important. And, not only that, but, it's important for companies to realize that there's a cost associated with recruiting talent. So, you onboard somebody, they're a star. You want to keep them engaged. You put the money into training them, into all types of education, the HR costs. It costs employers 33% of a worker's salary to hire a replacement if that person leaves. So retaining good employees just saves the company money and is honestly good business. In addition to that, it can expand the company's visibility in the community. We often see good news stories of companies donating their time, talent, or treasure to the community, and so the company is able to elevate their visibility, and the community members also are able to deepen their trust within the company. And Heather, I know that you know this from the marketing standpoint, but it provides great stories and content to share with target audiences.
Absolutely.
Your audience, they want to know about the business aspect that you do, but again, many of your customers are selecting you because of your values aligning with their values, and when they're able to see that, it makes them feel good about doing business with you. Not only that, but it builds up a competitive advantage. If you are thinking about how socially active you are, the impact that you're making, again, clients are going to be more likely to select your company over someone else's. And again, just the benefit of building and fostering public trust.
Absolutely. So Monica, how do we connect the bridge between philanthropy and business to make that impact?
That's a good question. And, and it's, perhaps companies feel the pull to align their business with social impact and are just wondering how to start, to improve a business's impact while positively affecting the company's reputation for employees and customers. There's some key steps that companies can take to incorporate social impact in their business model. And we'll start to talk about those. But, one of the reasons that that's important is because when you incorporate social impact in your business model, it doesn't feel like an extra thing to do. It's part of what you're already doing. So the first step is choose a social initiative that's related to your brand. Brands that do this well, an example is Luna Bar, which are power bars for women. I don't know if you guys have ever tried them. They're pretty tasty.
Yeah, I have.
Luna Bar doesn't pay me. I just think they're good. But they're committed to not only providing power bars that are made for women, but they're committed to the social initiative of equal pay for women, which clearly aligns with their brand's messaging. And and so through that, they've chosen a social initiative closely related to their brand. And one example in how they've done this is that they committed to paying each of the 23 women on the USA World Cup soccer team the difference in pay that men on the World Cup soccer team received versus women.
Wow.
And making up that gender disparity. And so they really put their dollars where their mouth was, in saying, we believe in gender pay equity. That is aligned with our branding, and we're going to bring light to the fact that, hey, you're paying these guys a lot more than you're paying the women. We're going to make up for it this year, but we fully expect for you guys to do the right thing by these athletes going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So, we can ask ourselves as companies, what within our field and what we do, whether it's focused on, technology or financial services or, retail, what is a social issue that can potentially be related to our brand? And that's a great place to start, and how to, and how to create impact.
So how do we align our employees and stakeholders with this impact internally?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, it can be a great recruitment strategy when companies do have a social impact strategy, and companies can be invested in that or employees can be invested in that when companies actually involve them in the design and execution of the strategy. So, a lot of times, think about it, Heather, I mean, just you personally, when you are choosing a company, it is important to you. And it's going to be even more important to you when you have a voice in what role the company plays in serving and solving a possible social issue. So, how does that engagement look? Are you able to lend your talents? Maybe you're able to lend your marketing talents. Maybe you're able to lend your time. Maybe the company's providing some paid time off to volunteer. Involving employees in the decision-making process, design process, and execution of that allows folks to have buy-in and ownership, which means that it's going to be a sustainable opportunity. Stakeholders are, as well as clients or such as clients and investors, should and can also be included in communicating the social impact strategy, its business benefits, and it's important for companies to keep them updated on the progress. Again, we all feel good when we're involved in something good. So why not give our stakeholders good things to talk about with the company? I feel proud to do business with ABC company because they do this. That is that's a quick, quote unquote, elevator speech that your stakeholders can use. And it's promoting your company in a way that is oftentimes unexpected to potential customers as well. And it is truly worth a company's time, energy, and resources to invest in aligning a strategy that includes senior leadership, employees, and stakeholders, so that everybody's on the same page, everybody's singing from the same sheet music, and everybody's moving in the right direction.
Absolutely. And I guess even touching on the fact, too, of we as humans are kind of programmed, and we're most likely brought up in our own schooling like on a reward system. So being able to automatically see that whatever they're doing as a company is giving back and actually helping someone or something in a positive way, I'm sure is really great too.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. So, the next area that, the companies can really start on bridging, on bridging philanthropy and business is focusing on needs close to home. So, small businesses, in which the Small Business Administration defines small businesses as businesses that have 500 employees or less. So 99% or 98% of businesses in the United States are actually small businesses. That's really important because small businesses have a clear advantage that owners see every day the issues in their communities, right? You're in your community, you hear the news reports going on there, you see the issues, you're involved with the schools. And so being able to focus on needs close to home gives you a competitive advantage. So there's a great example of impact that one company had right in their own backyard. A business owner by the name of Jimmy Jamshed is the owner of Captain D's restaurants in Texas. And what he noticed was that individuals were desperately rummaging through the trash cans behind his restaurant searching for food. And so, that was just absolutely unacceptable to him. He believed that everybody deserved the dignity of a meal, regardless of what your income is.
Mm-hmm.
And so he just started this casual effort to donate some of his restaurant's food to just deliver to impoverished areas of the community. And the cool thing was that soon community members and customers started joining in, and they really transformed his personal efforts into this full-fledged charitable campaign called Food for the Homeless, which he still leads. He and employees package and take food from his restaurants down to local parks every single day and deliver it to impoverished members of the community. And this was from a problem literally in his restaurant's own backyard and seeing folks going through the trash. So, that is like the definition of focusing on needs close to home, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
And, there's a similar example with a company called Premium Services Brands in Charlottesville, Virginia. They identified a problem in their community that children with school provided lunches didn't have access to healthy meals on the weekend. And they're another food-based organization. So to change that, their office staff began spending Friday mornings grocery shopping within their warehouses for underserved students at the elementary school down the street from them, packing them up in backpacks, and, again, with dignity, delivering these backpacks to the kids' lockers while they're in class so that nobody needs to know, what their financial situation is. But these backpacks were filled with a weekend's worth of food with easy to make meals containing high nutritional value and enough for a family of 4. And so this program provides year-round stability to local families and also removes a source of stress from students' lives. And it's just another great example of the importance and value of focusing on needs close to home and how small businesses can have a real advantage in being able to do that.
Yes.
So, one other area that, that we can focus on building this bridge is putting our money where our mouth is, right? So, if you think about social campaigns, sometimes companies will join on those campaigns, whether it's like putting up something on social media or making a statement. But sometimes companies will do those things and then they don't have words behind the actions, right? They're jumping on like this immediate media campaign, but then, okay, where's the steak behind the sizzle? So, just stating that your company is in support of a social initiative without proving it by allocating financial resources to really impact the outcome that you desire is really important. And it could be, perhaps donating a percentage of sales to a particular, initiative. It could be allowing your employees to commit a day of volunteering at a soup kitchen or hosting underprivileged youth for a workshop at your office. It could be companies offering, several hours of paid volunteer time a year to volunteer instead of making folks forfeit or use their own personal PTO to do those things. And, the putting your money where your mouth is, there's no one size fits all. It's depending on the size of your company and your budget, but the important thing is to start somewhere. And every company, regardless of their size, is able to start somewhere. And one of the other things, and this is tricky for some folks, but it's super important, is put people ahead of partisan politics. So, especially if companies they may have locations in different areas of the country. They may have clients in different areas of the country, and those different areas may have very political views from one another. And so you don't want to alienate any of your clients by, by potentially doing that. So rather than focusing on any particular partisan political views, companies are just honestly best positioned by raising awareness of issues that matter to their communities and where the rubber meets the road. And customers appreciate that. So like exercising your influence by bringing communities together for the common good. And we know that like politics doesn't always feel like bringing communities together. So,
Yes.
so honestly, with very few exceptions, the best strategy is for most brands is to just stay out of politics and put people ahead of politics. And like I mentioned, two great examples are the two organizations that I just mentioned. Focusing on hunger, that is a universal need, regardless of what your political affiliation is. Kids shouldn't be going to school hungry. Folks shouldn't be rummaging through the trash to find a healthy meal. And clients and customers, employees, everybody can get behind something like that.
Absolutely. And it's also like, at the end of the day, we are all human beings. Nobody knows what another person's story might be, their upbringing, what their families had to go through, what the clients that this company serves, what they had to go through to even start their practices or to sell whatever it is they might be selling as well. So I could not agree more with this slide. So how can our businesses become more engaged in creating social impact?
Yeah, it's every company can start somewhere. Like there's when you think about big initiatives there that you've undertaken at work, personally, there's never a good time, right? That something will always come up that could potentially take away that energy. And I've worked with companies who believe that their budgets were too tight, their business imperatives were too urgent to sort of shift focus away to delivering social impact. But in spending time better understanding their business model, I've discovered that, there have always been opportunities buried in those challenges. So there was one company that they were going through a really urgent business imperative to transition over all of their technology to these new systems so that they can manage their clients. They wanted to focus on social impact, but they did not think that they had the time right now to do it. And to me, just in that statement, the opportunity that was highlighted is, wait, you're turning over all your technology. Well, somebody out there could probably use some of that technology that you need. So like literally in that sentence, to me, therein lied the opportunity. So we were able to align their technology turnover process so that their old technology peripherals were donated to schools and domestic violence shelters in need. And that change helped show the company that the fast pace of their business could help and not hinder in creating impact as long as it's properly aligned.
Absolutely. Monica, you are giving me so many ideas right now.
One of the other areas is volunteerism. Businesses can offer employees the opportunity, as I mentioned, for paid time away from work to volunteer at nonprofit organizations. The paid time away from work is actually a pretty cool opportunity because I've seen companies do it in a couple of ways. One is by volunteering with an organization aligned with the corporate brand that they've selected. I've also seen some companies say, hey, we know we do some group volunteering with the organization or organizations we selected, but we also know that you all have issues that are maybe separate and important to you. So we're going to give you some time off to volunteer for those things. So, maybe a company has a focus on, early literacy in schools, but someone else, an employee, has a really strong focus. Maybe they're a veteran and they have a really strong focus on veterans' needs. Well, being able to provide that volunteer paid time off may give that person time to go down to the VA or somewhere else to volunteer. Folks are able to feel more connected to their employer when they feel that their employer values and respects the things that are important to them. Not only that, but another way that companies can make an impact is by maximizing interested employees whose just general spirits are geared towards giving. There's always going to be somebody within a company who will, want to lead the work. It's a leadership opportunity to maybe develop an employee resource group or a volunteer group. So you can be sort of training that person in leadership, by being able to lead that group and dedicated to that person can be, or group of people can be dedicated to gathering like-minded employees who want to give back and to building a strategy around it.
Absolutely.
So one of the other areas is community engagement, and community engagement is different from volunteerism because, community engagement may be showing up at an event, building partnerships with community members or local leaders or nonprofits, whereas volunteerism is dedicating your time to your unpaid time to a specific outcome. Community engagement helps build rapport and ultimately also just creates a pipeline for customers. You're more visible within the community. Folks are learning to trust you, are learning to see you as a potential thought leader. You're learning, you as the business is learning more about those community needs. And the most successful community engagement efforts, honestly, they just have a common thread. It requires listening, understanding, and action. And when you do those three things within the community, you're able to do it in a way that feels really respectful, right? Nobody wants somebody coming into their community acting like they have all the answers, right? So being able to listen, understand, ask questions to, gain deeper, information, and then hearing from the community what action and support that they need instead of assuming what they need, allows a business to be a really authentic partner with the community. And it shows your customers, it shows the community, it shows your employees and your stakeholders that you care about the welfare of the community, and it's honestly a part of your business proposition. A best practice, though, I will say, and this is one of the key things that I remind folks in my practice, is that you really want to vet the nonprofits for reputation risk, for strategic alignment, and to confirm that they're actually making impact within the community. The last thing that you want is to, have a philanthropic and giving spirit and then get hooked up with an organization that may be detrimental to the potential reputation or work that you're trying to do. And being able to connect with, a professional in that space who's able to vet those organizations or, work with other groups or businesses or, community leaders to vet them is also just a really important thing to remember. So one of the other areas that businesses can get started in is just by looking at their own environmental impact and reducing negative environmental impact. I mean, we live in Maryland and, it is hot, right? It is hot. And we always have, 4 distinct seasons, but like this summer feels hotter than, I don't know, any that I remember.
Yeah. But Maryland has basically all the seasons and then some. Sometime in the summer, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if it started snowing tomorrow.
Right,
so
right. Yeah.
Sometimes
we have all the seasons in a month. But we're also seeing the impact of wildfires. We're seeing the impact of flooding. So this is not a questionable thing. Like we all have to do our part in reducing our environmental impact. And so companies can move forward in that towards thinking about the products that they use. Are they sustainably sourced? Reducing our waste. Limiting, using low flow faucets, limiting the electricity usage by having auto on, auto off on our electricity, thinking about our packaging that we're using, going paperless if possible. Most of us are in front of computers and emails all day anyway. So do we really need to print, those documents and, having a process around that, what temperature is the office set at? It can be comfortable and not be freezing. I once had, worked at this company that I always had to have a sweater and a little personal heater with me. It was was just so
Oh,
cold in there
goodness. No.
unnecessarily. And it's like, you know, so they were spending extra money cooling it, and then spending extra money on the little heater that I had plugged up because I had
Yeah.
to balance out the temperature when you know they just needed to set it at a a normal degree
Yeah.
temperature. Um, and also working with lead contractors if a business is going to do any construction, going to do any demolition, making sure that the contractors are lead certified is a great way to to ensure that is happening, that change is happening. So these are easy ways, like if you don't know where to start, any or all of these places are ways that companies can just get started and do something.
Definitely. So speaking of ways to start, can we just do a brief summary?
Yeah, absolutely. Volunteerism, providing your employees with time away from work shows that they're valued, and it shows that you have a commitment to positively impacting the community.
Mm-hmm.
Community engagement, focus on what matters to the communities where you serve and where you operate. Not going in with our own priorities and initiatives, but listening to what the community needs are and aligning our core competencies with what they need, provides for respectful and authentic engagement and relationships. And reducing environmental impact. Us all operate in a socially responsible and sustainable way. We have limited resources. We have finite resources here. So let's make sure that we are doing the things that we need to keep our resources for next generations. The other thing that I'll mention is just, I mentioned LEAD, but I want to make sure that I indicate what it stands for. It's a designation. It means leadership in energy and environmental design. So the benefits of working with a LEAD contractor are that oftentimes reduce energy and water usage, improved air quality, and lower operating costs. So that's a specific certification that you can ask for of your contractors, of your architects, of anybody when you're doing any construction or demolition work.
And how do we make that connection?
Yes, absolutely. So, we start by choosing a social initiative related to your brand. Making sure that you align stakeholders. That means your senior leadership, that means your employees, that means your investors and your customers. Don't be afraid to share when you've done the homework and the back work and are ready to launch, or even get insight into where your social impact initiatives are going to lie. Don't be afraid to engage any and all of those stakeholders in the design process, in the implementation, and in the execution of that. Again, focus on local needs. We do not, if everybody does their part, we're doing a whole lot. So focus on the needs right in your own backyard, and put your money where your mouth is. Nobody's asking anybody to, shift 50% of your profits to anything. We all know the companies are still need to make money. You still need to pay your employees. You still need to run. You still need to make a profit. And we can do that and be socially responsible at the same time. So, think about your time off policies. Are you giving employees a certain number of hours per year that they can volunteer on initiatives that are either aligned with your company or are important to that employee? Are they, does your company set aside some funds to make donations? Has your company put in place a social impact strategy? Do you need help with doing that? Have you put aside resources to do that if you need professional assistance in doing that? And then finally, put people ahead of politics. Try not to focus on partisan politics. Let's focus on things that are focused on the community good and bringing people together.
Definitely. Thank you, Monica.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to open up the floor to any questions. So if anyone has any questions or comments for Monica, please feel free to send them in the chat box now. We'll just give a few moments for people to get their thoughts in. So while we wait, Monica, I do have a few questions of my own that I would like to ask.
Sure.
You had brought up towards the beginning of the webinar that you have been in contact with some of these businesses and companies that, there's not a right time for them to do it. It's not a good time. But is there ever, quote unquote, a right time to give back? Is there ever like that sweet spot for a company to where they know that right now it's great to give back. It's great to put our money where our mouth is. This is when we should have that social initiative branded.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm biased, so I'm always going to say anytime is the right time to give back.
Yeah.
And I think it's, it's honestly important to think that way, right? Like in the middle of a crisis, in the middle of a, like the worst time possible to think about doing it, there's almost always an opportunity to turn that lemon into lemonade. And it makes everybody feel better about whatever the urgent thing is, because you're like, okay, we're doing this and we're doing good while we're doing it. So I would consistently encourage that. But I'll also say that companies, when they're at their, within their life cycle, where they feel like they've hired up, they have a good stable employee base, they're stable with their customers, and now they're looking to figure out how we do more. We've established, we've started to do well, but it feels incomplete. Why does it feel incomplete? Because we know we could be doing more to help the folks around us. So, that's always a really good time to, to pause, look at opportunities out there to align. And the other thing that I'll say is that, when companies are making leadership transitions, and senior leadership transitions, it's a great time when new CEOs are coming in, new senior leadership, and they want to make an impactful change. One of the first ways that they can do that is actually by making social impactful change, and that can align with a new corporate or business vision as well.
Definitely. I didn't even think about I did think about like the transitions in employment, as in if you were onboarding new employees, but it didn't even cross my mind about somebody jumping into like a senior leadership position. That's really good to note. So my next question is, what is the difference between corporate philanthropy and corporate social responsibility?
So that's a good question, because a lot of times the terms are used interchangeably,
Yeah.
and they seem similar, but corporate social responsibility is a more holistic approach that really describes the overall attitude of an organization towards the society at large, and the desire to focus on the overall impact of the company's actions on society. So it is a more holistic approach. Whereas corporate philanthropy is a narrower form of social responsibility that focuses more on the financial support and like public benefit projects. So philanthropy can be a part of an overall social responsibility strategy. Corporate social responsibility is much more holistic.
Gotcha. So, which we also mentioned a few ways, but what should a company's first steps or step be when deciding on a social initiative and wanting to actually implement that corporate impact strategy that aligns to their brand?
So I think the first step is getting really clear on their own corporate competencies. Like what does your company do well? What is your mission? What is your vision? Who are your core set of customers? What is your core competency? Once you do that and align that, then it becomes much easier to identify what social issue you may want to focus on. So, an example of that is with Visa. Visa focuses on communities that are disconnected from the digital economy. And that is obviously Visa's core competency is the digital economy, connecting folks through cards and other means, and now with apps and things like that to the financial services industry. Well, and Visa is an international company, but what they realized was that there are many, communities internationally and quite frankly, even locally here, rurally, that are disconnected from the digital financial services society. And it makes it very difficult for those local economies to run and start businesses, to send money to family. And so by aligning their core competency with a key community need, they were able to focus on exactly where they could make the biggest impact.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it doesn't look like we have any other comments or concerns in the chat right now, but if anyone has any comments for Monica or I once this webinar concludes, please feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information can be found at the beginning of this presentation. And with that, thank you all for joining us. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so you can actually see our faces. Let's see here. There we go. So hello, Monica.
Hey, Heather.
Thank you all for being here and helping us close out our 7th webinar. It was absolutely amazing, and I hope that everyone who has been able to join us takes something good away from this and are already thinking of ways that they can go out and make an impact on their community, regardless of if it's corporate, if it's individual. I'm sure that no matter how small the impact, it's still good either way. So again, thank you all for joining us, and I hope everyone has a great Wednesday.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, Monica. Bye.